The Magnolia Cemetery was almost empty. Families were going home for dinner. Tourists were done taking photos for ghost tours. Even the groundskeeper had waved goodbye an hour ago. Alara didn't want to leave anyway. "Soren, I don't know how to do this," she whispered to his headstone. Her voice broke when she said his name, like it always did. "People say it gets easier with time. They're lying," she thought. All of them. A warm breeze blew from the water. It smelled like salt and jasmine. Soren loved that smell. He used to take her down to the battery at sunset just to enjoy it together. Now the smell only made her chest hurt. Alara forced herself to stand. Her joints hurt from kneeling on the wet grass for so long. She brushed the dirt off her black dress, the same one she had worn to the funeral. What did it matter anymore? She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just trying to survive until tomorrow. Walking back to her car felt much longer than it should. The cemetery paths all looked the same in the fading light. Left or right? She couldn't remember. Her mind felt foggy, like it was wrapped in cotton. She chose left. Wrong choice. 10 minutes later, she was in a part of the cemetery she didn't recognize, surrounded by very old graves from the 1800s. The headstones leaned like broken teeth. The sun was almost gone. Spanish moss hung from the oak trees like gray fingers reaching down. Her phone was dead. Of course, she had forgotten to charge it. Panic started creeping up her spine. Not sharp panic, but the tired kind that comes when you're too tired to feel real fear. A dull heaviness said, "Of course this is happening. Why would anything go right?" Then she heard footsteps behind her. Alara turned, clutching her purse tightly, ready to run, even though her legs felt heavy. A man stood about 20 feet away, looking as lost as she felt. He was white, maybe in his mid-30s, with dark hair and a face that probably smiled easily once. He wore an expensive suit, the kind Soren used to wear to work, but his jacket was open and his tie was loose, like he had been wearing it too long. His eyes met hers, and she saw something that stopped her from running. Grief. Real grief. Not the polite kind you see at funerals, but the kind that makes you forget how to sleep. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice rough. "I didn't mean to scare you. I'm just lost. Do you know the way back to the main entrance?" Alara almost laughed. "Almost. I was going to ask you the same thing." A small smile appeared on his face. "So, we're both lost." They stood there in the darkening cemetery, two strangers who had come to talk to the dead and couldn't find their way back to the living. "I'm Kalen," he said. "Kalen Thorne." Alara knew the name. Everyone in Charleston knew the Thorne family. They owned buildings, restored old homes, and had more money than most people could imagine. She had seen his face in the newspaper. What was a man like that doing lost in a cemetery at dusk? "Alara," she said quietly. "Alara Vance." "Well, Alara Vance," Kalen said, pulling his phone from his pocket and frowning. "My phone's dead. Does yours work?" She shook her head. "Perfect. Just perfect." The last bit of sunlight disappeared. They were now standing in real darkness. Only the glow of Charleston in the distance reminded them they weren't completely alone. "We should probably figure this out before they lock the gates," Alara said. "They lock the gates?" Kalen asked. "I have no idea," she said. He laughed, a real laugh, and Alara felt something tiny crack open in her heart. "All right then," Kalen said, pointing down a path. "Shall we try this way?" Alara looked at him. A wealthy stranger in an expensive suit, lost and broken, just like she was. She thought of Soren and what he always said, "The universe puts people in your path exactly when you need them." She had stopped believing that when he died. But standing here, she didn't have another choice. "Yes," she said, "let's try that way." Neither of them knew it yet, but this choice was going to change everything. They walked quietly for a few minutes. Their footsteps crunched on the gravel. Alara kept stealing glances at Kalen. His shoes probably cost a lot of money, but they were scuffed. His watch was fancy, but he wore it loose. Everything about him said money, but nothing said happy. "You come here often?" Kalen asked, then winced. Sorry, that sounded like a terrible pickup line. It did, Alara said. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. When was the last time I almost smiled? She wondered. Do you visit someone here often? He asked. My husband, she said softly. Soren, he died 18 months ago. Kalen nodded slowly. My wife, he said. Juliet, 2 years ago last month. And there it was. They shared the same kind of loneliness, the one only people who have lost someone special understand, the kind of loneliness that makes you feel invisible, even in a crowded room. I'm sorry, Alara whispered. Me too, Kalen said. They came to 3 paths, none of which looked familiar. This is ridiculous, Kalen muttered. I own half the city and I can't find my way out of a cemetery. Owning buildings doesn't help you here, Alara said. I'm a school teacher. I can teach anything, but I can't remember the way in here. What grades? Kalen asked. 4th and 5th, she said. My little sister went there years ago before moving to Boston. She used to talk about her teachers like they were heroes. Alara felt a small warmth in her chest. Those kids save my life sometimes, she said. Give me a reason to get up when everything else feels pointless. Was he sick for long? Kalen asked. No, that's the thing. He wasn't sick at all. We were planning a trip for our 10th anniversary. He went out for his morning run, came back, said his chest hurt, and died before we even got to the hospital. I didn't get to say goodbye, she whispered. I know, Kalen said. Juliet just was gone. The doctor said she didn't feel pain. Does that make it easier? Not even a little, Alara said. They took the middle path, going deeper into the cemetery, but neither cared about leaving anymore. Sometimes being lost meant you could stop pretending you knew where you were going. Can I ask you something? Kalen said after a while. You can tell me to mind my own business. All right, Alara said. How do you get through the days? Alara thought about saying something inspiring, but she was too tired. I don't, she said honestly. I just exist. Wake up, go through the motions, go to his grave and talk to a piece of stone like he can hear me. Then I go home and sit in his chair because mine doesn't feel right anymore. Kalen nodded. I work until I can't think anymore, he said. Buy buildings I don't need, make money that doesn't mean anything. My little sister says I'm running away. She's right, probably. At least you're moving. I'm just standing still. A light appeared ahead. Finally, the main path. The entrance gates were still open. This is going to sound strange, Kalen said as they got closer. But I'm glad I got lost tonight. This was the first real conversation I've had in months. Alara understood exactly. People talk at you when you're grieving, but nobody really talks with you. Nobody admits they are just as lost as you are. Me too, she said softly. They reached the gates. Kalen's black Mercedes was parked nearby. Of course it was. Alara's old Honda was 3 rows over. They stood there, awkwardly, like teenagers after a first date they didn't plan. Well, Kalen said, thank you for being lost with me. Anytime, Alara said, and she meant it. He took out his wallet. Even though he was feeling sad, he still acted like a rich man. He handed Alara a card. This might sound strange, he said. You can throw it away as soon as I leave, but if you ever want to talk to someone who really understands, my number is on this card. Alara looked at the card. It was thick and fancy with shiny letters. It said, Kalen Thorne, CEO, Thorne Properties and Development. I don't need help from rich men, Alara said softly. I'm not giving you charity, Kalen said. I'm just offering friendship, one lost person to another. His words were simple, honest, and kind. Alara felt a tight feeling in her throat. She put the card in her purse. Good night, Kalen Thorne. Good night, Alara Vance. She watched him walk to his big Mercedes car. He sat in the driver's seat for a long time before starting the engine, like he needed a moment to get ready to face the world again. Alara understood that feeling. She got into her own car and took out the card. She stared at it for a whole minute. Then she put it in her glove compartment and drove home. Her house was empty. Soren's coffee cup sat on the counter. His glasses waited on the nightstand. His side of the bed was cold and empty. But for the first time in 18 months, Alara did not cry herself to sleep. She lay in the dark thinking about a stranger who understood what it was like to feel lost. Two broken hearts had met by chance in a cemetery. What happened next would make anyone believe in second chances. If you're still reading, hit the like button and tell me in the comments if you have ever felt really lost. Alara did not call Kalen. For 3 weeks, his cards stayed in her glove compartment, collecting dust and guilt. Every time she drove past the cemetery, she thought about that night. She remembered how easy it was to talk to him, how lighter she had felt for just 1 hour. But then she remembered Soren, remembered the promises she had made at his funeral. She would love him forever, and no one could replace him. Calling another man felt like betrayal, even if it was just to talk. It felt wrong. So she didn't call. She went back to her routine. Wake up at 6 a.m., even though school didn't start until 8. Make coffee for 2, then pour Soren's cup down the sink. Sit in his chair because hers felt too small now. Drive to the cemetery 3 times a week to tell him about her day, even though every day was exactly the same. The loneliness crushed her slowly, like being buried alive, one small shovel of dirt at a time. Her sister Mira called every Sunday. "You need to get out of that house," she said. "Join a book club, take a class, do something, just live." Alara couldn't explain. Going out felt like leaving Soren behind. Being around happy people felt like an attack. She didn't know how to be the old Alara, the one who laughed, hosted dinner parties, and believed in happy endings. That Alara had died with Soren. One Thursday morning in late September, Alara was in the grocery store, moving like a ghost. She wasn't really seeing anything. Then someone called her name. Alara. Alara Vance. Her heart jumped. Kalen Thorne was 3 feet away, holding a basket. Inside, just a bottle of scotch and a frozen dinner. That night, she sat in Soren's chair and cried. Not the hollow tears of the past 18 months. These were scared tears, guilty tears. But underneath all that pain, a tiny spark of something new. Hope. Hope hurts worse than grief. But grief was familiar. Alara looked at Kalen's number on her phone. She almost deleted it 3 times. Instead, she sent a text. "Thank you for asking." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Thank you for saying yes." She set the phone down and looked at Soren's picture on the mantel. His kind eyes, his smile. "I don't know what I'm doing," she said to the picture. "But maybe I need to stop drowning. Would you be mad at me for that?" The picture didn't answer, but the house felt a little less empty. She had agreed to coffee with a stranger. Just coffee, and yet it felt like jumping off a cliff. Alara changed her outfit 4 times. She finally wore jeans and a simple blue sweater. The one Soren used to say brought out her eyes. Then she felt guilty for thinking about what Soren would say, almost wanted to cancel. But she didn't. She showed up at Roasted Charleston at 9:58 a.m., 2 minutes early. Kalen was already there, sitting at a corner table by the window. He looked out at King Street, like he was trying to remember every face. He stood when he saw her. The gesture made her chest feel tight. "You came," he said. "You sound surprised." "I am. I thought you might text me an emergency at 9:45. "I almost did," Alara admitted. They sat down. Awkwardness wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. What do you say to someone who barely knows you but has seen your worst? Kalen ordered black coffee. Alara ordered a latte with extra foam, then felt silly. Who orders extra foam? What was she trying to prove? "How do we do this?" Kalen asked after the barista left. "Do what?" "Talk like normal people. I've forgotten how." "Me neither." Alara twisted her napkin in her fingers. "My sister says I should join the world again. Get out more. Stop living in the past, but the past is all I have left." "People tell me that too," Kalen said quietly. "My sister especially. She says Juliet would want me to be happy. Does that help?" "Not at all." Their coffee arrived. They both made small changes in silence, him stirring, her adding sugar. They didn't need to fill the quiet. Can I tell you something? Kaylin asked. Something I haven't told anyone? Okay. Alara looked at him. I'm selling my company. All of it. Thorn Properties. Everything my dad built, everything I worked for. I'm done. My sister thinks I'm crazy. Why? Alara asked. Because none of it matters without Juliet, he said, voice breaking. She cared about this business, believed in it. I was just along for the ride. Now she's gone, and I'm left with all this money, all these buildings, but it's empty. Alara understood. She had cried over Soren's cardigan last month, not because it mattered, but because it smelled like him, like coffee, like Sunday mornings together. I understand, she said softly. Do you? Kaylin leaned forward, eyes intense. Everyone says I should be grateful, that I can't complain because I have money and success. Sorry, I didn't mean to whine. No, Alara said. I think I came here to listen to someone who doesn't try to fix me, doesn't say it'll get better, someone who doesn't tell me to get more cats. That's funny. How many cats? 2. Soren hated cats, but I got 2 anyway. Not messed up, human. They talked for an hour, then 2. The coffee shop filled with people having lunch, but they barely noticed. Kaylin told her about Juliet's laugh, how it could fill a room, how he had spent 2 years trying not to think about it, because it hurt too much. Alara told Kaylin about Soren terrible singing. He would sing Elvis songs in the shower every morning, off-key but very confident. They laughed, real laughter. Then they felt a little guilty for laughing. Is this wrong? Alara asked suddenly. Being here? Enjoying this? Kaylin was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, maybe, but I feel more alive right now than I have in 2 years. So if it's wrong, I don't care. Those words hung in the air. They were dangerous, honest, and scary. Alara's phone buzzed. It was a text from her sister. How's coffee with the mystery man? Alara had told Mira she had a doctor's appointment. I should go, Alara said, even though she didn't want to. I told my sister She stopped. What was the point in lying? You told her you had other plans, Kaylin finished for her. I did the same with my sister. I said I had a business meeting. Why did we lie? Because this feels like something we need to protect, even from people who love us. They stood up slowly, gathering their things. Neither wanted to leave. Outside, King Street was busy with tourists and locals, everyone going somewhere, doing something, living their lives. Can we do this again? Kaylin asked. Or was this a one-time thing? Alara looked at him. He was rich, but also broken, just like she was, just as lost, just as desperate for someone who understood. Next week, she said. Same time. I'll be there. They parted ways on the sidewalk. Alara walked to her car, feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because, for 2 hours, she had forgotten to be sad. Heavier because forgetting felt like a betrayal. At home, she stood in front of Soren's picture again. I had coffee with someone today, she said. Just coffee, that's all. But I think I might do it again. Is that okay? Can you give me a sign that it's okay? The house stayed silent. No sign came. That night, Alara dreamed about Kaylin's smile. She woke up at 3 a.m., crying because it wasn't Soren's smile. She didn't know if her heart was big enough to hold both her grief and this new, confusing feeling. For 6 weeks, Alara and Kaylin met for coffee every Thursday morning at 10. Then it became Tuesday and Thursday. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. They never called it dating. Dating was for people looking for love and a future. They were just 2 people learning to breathe again after losing someone they loved. Kaylin told her about his father, who measured love in money, about building a business he never wanted, and about Juliet's illness and death. Alara told him about teaching 4th graders to read, about Soren's gentle humor, and about setting the table for 2 sometimes and realizing she was eating alone. They met at different coffee shops in Charleston so Mira wouldn't see them. They walked along the Battery at sunset, talked about grief counseling neither could handle, and shared memories of their spouses without anyone pressuring them to move on. It felt safe until Alara's phone rang at 6 a.m. Alara Vance, a woman said, cold and professional. This is Blair Wick from the Charleston Post and Courier. I'm doing a story on Kaylin Thorne, and your name came up. Would you answer some questions? Alara's stomach dropped. Why my name? She asked. You've been seen with Mr. Thorne a lot lately, the reporter said. Coffee shops, restaurants, the waterfront. People talk in Charleston, especially when a rich man spends time with a young widow whose late husband left big debts behind. The words hit Alara like a slap. Excuse me, Soren Vance, your late husband. According to public records, he left about $200,000 in medical debt and credit card bills when he passed. You've been fighting those debts for over a year. And now you're seen with Kaylin Thorne, who is selling properties and giving money to charity. Alara hung up. Her hands were shaking so hard she dropped the phone twice. The reporter was implying something awful, that she was using grief to trick a rich man. She called Kaylin immediately. Good morning, he answered warmly. I was just thinking about you. A reporter called me, Alara said, from the Post and Courier, about us, about Soren debts, about why you're spending time with me. There was silence. Kaylin, I know, he said quietly. She called me too last night. I was going to tell you today, I just didn't know how. Tell me what? Another long silence. Can we meet? Not at a coffee shop. Somewhere private. My house. Every instinct told Alara to say no, to hang up, to go back to being safely sad alone. But she needed answers. She texted him for the address. Kaylin's house wasn't just a house. It was a 3-story historic mansion on Meeting Street. Tourists took pictures of it, and it had plaques about Civil War history. It reminded Alara how different his world was from hers. A housekeeper led Alara to a study. It probably cost more than her entire house. There were floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather furniture, and windows overlooking a garden that looked like it came from a magazine. Kaylin stood by the window in pajama pants and a t-shirt. He looked undone. Thank you for coming, he said. Tell me the truth. All of it. He nodded slowly. Reporters write about some things. I am selling properties and moving money, but not for the reasons she thinks. Then why? Because I'm leaving Charleston, moving to Montana. I bought land there. Just space and quiet, no memories. I'm getting rid of everything that reminds me of Juliet. Starting over. Alara felt the floor drop under her. When, after the sale of my company finalizes, and you weren't going to tell me? I didn't know how, Kaylin said, anguished. Every time I tried, I couldn't because of this, he gestured between them. Whatever this is, it's the only good thing in my life right now, and I knew if I told you, you'd pull away. So you lied. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing, Kaylin. Alara could feel tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of him. The debts. Soren medical bills. Did you pay them? Kaylin's face said everything before he spoke. You did, she whispered. When I saw how stressed you were, working overtime at the bookstore to pay minimum payments, I wanted to help. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. It didn't mean anything to me, but I knew it meant everything to you. You had no right, Alara said, her voice shaking. You had no right to go behind my back to check my finances. I don't need your charity. I'm not a project for you to fix so you feel better about your dead wife. Her words hurt him, and she couldn't take them back. That's not what this is it? Poor young widow, drowning in debt. Perfect chance for a rich man to play hero. Alara grabbed her purse. I was fine on my own. I didn't need you to save me. You weren't fine. Neither was I. That's why we found each other. No, you found a charity case. I don't know what I found. She walked to the door, every step like cutting off a piece of herself. Alara, please, Kaylin begged. Don't leave like this. She turned back, tears finally spilling over. You're leaving in 3 months anyway. I'm just getting a head start. The door closed behind her with a soft click. It sounded like goodbye. Everything Alara thought she knew was a lie. The man she was starting to trust was planning to leave her. The connection she thought was real was built on secrets. Sometimes the darkest moment comes right before the dawn. Alara didn't leave her house for 3 days. She called in sick to work, ignored Mira's calls, let the cat food bowls go empty, and cried in Soren's chair until her eyes were swollen. She felt so stupid for believing Kaylin Thorne could care about someone like her, a simple schoolteacher with medical debt and 2 cats. Of course it was for charity. Of course he was leaving. Why would he stay? On the 4th day, Mira showed up with spare keys and Chinese takeout. She had enough sisterly fury to break through walls. "Get up," Mira said, marching in. "Go away." "Not happening. You look like death. This house smells like cat litter, and you ignored 12 calls. Get up." Alara finally sat up. Mira's anger softened into concern. "Oh, honey, what happened?" Everything spilled out: the cemetery meeting, the coffee dates, Kaylin's wealth, his secrets, the reporter, the paid debts, his plan to leave Charleston and never come back. "He played you," Mira said, hard. "Rich men do that. They find vulnerable women." "No," Alara said, surprising herself. "He didn't play me. He's broken too. And broken people make stupid decisions, like paying off $200,000 in debt without asking, like thinking money can fix everything when it can't." Mira sat down on the couch, studying her sister carefully. "Do you love him?" "What?" "No. I barely know him. We've known each other 2 months." "That's not what I asked." Alara looked down at her hands. These were the same hands that had held Soren's hand when he died. They were the same hands that had signed papers for the cremation, the hospital bills, and the death certificates. Her hands felt empty now. They had been empty for so long, she forgot what it felt like to reach for someone. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know if this is love or just fear. Fear of being alone forever. But I know that when I'm with him, I feel alive again. And that scared me even before I found out he was leaving. So what are you going to do?" "Nothing. He's moving to Montana." "It's over," Mira said, leaning forward. Her face looked serious. Soren would hate seeing you like this. You know that, right? He spent 10 years making you laugh, making you feel loved, making you live, and now you're using his memory as an excuse to stop living. That's not fair." "It is fair," Alara said softly. "You think loving Soren means being sad forever? That loving him means you can never love anyone else? That's not how it works. Liv, you don't understand." "I understand," Mira said. "I understand that you met someone who makes you feel alive again, and instead of trying for that, you're running away like he is. You're both so scared of hurting your old loves that you'd rather be alone than try to be happy." Alara's voice became small. "What if I try and it doesn't work? What if I open my heart again and he still leaves?" "Then at least you tried. At least you lived," Mira said. After Mira left, Alara sat in Soren's chair for a long time. She thought about second chances, fear, and what it really meant to honor someone's memory. Finally, she got up and went to the bedroom. She opened the closet where Soren's clothes had hung for 18 months. She couldn't pack them before. Keeping his shirts, ties, and favorite sweaters made her feel like he was still alive. But he wasn't. And she wasn't really living either. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the empty closet. "I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. I can't live in the past. You'd hate who I've become." She started taking the clothes off the hangers, folding them carefully, and putting them in bags for donation. With each item she packed, she felt lighter. Not because she loved Soren any less, but because she was letting herself love him without feeling trapped by grief. She kept his favorite cardigan. It still smelled like him. She'd always keep that. But the rest, someone else needed them more than she needed the memories. When she finished, 6 bags were by the door. The closet looked empty and sad, but also honest. It showed what her life really was now. She pulled out her phone and stared at Kaylin's contact. She had almost deleted it 100 times in the past 3 days. Instead, she typed, "Can we talk? Really talk this time." The 3 dots appeared right away. He had been waiting. Yes. Where? The cemetery where we met, tomorrow at sunset. I'll be there, Alara replied. The next evening, Alara went to Magnolia Cemetery. The sun was setting over the harbor. She walked straight to Soren's grave. She needed to do this right. She knelt on the grass, one hand on his headstone. I met someone, she said, her voice steady. His name is Kalen. He's leaving Charleston in 3 months. I think I might be falling for him. I don't know if that makes me a bad wife or just human, but I needed to tell you. You were my whole world for 10 years, Soren. You still are in so many ways, but I can't live like I died with you. It's not what you would have wanted. The wind moved through the oak trees. It smelled like salt and jasmine, the smell Soren loved. I think you'd like him, she continued. He tells bad jokes. He's stubborn. He's scared of living, just like I am. And maybe we can help each other figure out how to live right. Footsteps came behind her. Alara turned. Kalen was there, standing a little distance away. He held simple daisies, not expensive roses. He looked nervous, hopeful, and scared all at once. Hi, he said softly. Hi, she said. He knelt beside her. Is this Soren? Yes, Alara said. Kalen placed the daisies at the base of the headstone. Thank you for taking care of her, he said to the grave. I'm sorry for everything. I should have been honest from the start. Why weren't you? Alara asked. I was scared, Kalen said. His voice shook. For 2 years, I planned to leave. I was going to sell everything, start over somewhere no one knew me or Juliet. But then I met you, and suddenly I didn't want to leave. But saying that felt like betraying Juliet, like saying our life together didn't matter. But it did. Just like my life with Soren mattered. But they're gone. We're not. I know, Alara said. I've known for weeks. Kalen stopped and pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is the deed to the Montana property. I was going to give it to you tonight. Why would you give me this? Alara asked. Because I'm not going. I called the buyer yesterday and canceled everything. The land, the escape plan, all of it. I don't want to run anymore. I want to stay here in Charleston, where the memories are hard but real, where I met you. His eyes looked at hers, vulnerable but certain. I want to try, Alara. Try to build something new without erasing the old. I don't know if it's possible, but I want to try with you. If you'll let me. What about the company? Alara asked. I'm still selling it, but I'm starting something new, he said. Smaller, affordable housing. Juliet wanted this, but I shut it down because it wasn't profitable. Now I don't care about profit. I care about doing something that matters. Alara felt her heart expand and ache at the same time. You paid off my debts? She asked. I did. I should have asked first. I'm sorry. I'll pay you back. Every cent, Alara. Every cent. Because I need to know this. Us is real. It's not about money or saving someone or filling empty spaces. I need to know it's real. He reached for her hand gently, asking permission. It's real, Alara said, the most real thing I've felt in 2 years. She laced her fingers through his. It felt like betrayal and healing all mixed together. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too, Kalen said. I don't know how to love someone new without forgetting the one I lost. Maybe we don't have to choose, Alara said. Maybe we just carry them with us while we figure out what comes next. Alara looked at Soren's headstone, then at Kalen. This man had been lost too, but he found her in the dark and stayed even when it was scary. Okay, she said, finally. Let's try, but slow. Really slow. As slow as we need. They sat together as the sun set over Charleston Harbor. 2 people, both widowed, learning that loving someone new didn't mean forgetting the old. Moving forward didn't mean leaving the past behind. Sometimes the bravest thing is to let yourself feel alive again, even when grief says you don't deserve it. Thank you, Soren, Alara whispered, for teaching me what love looks like, for showing me I can survive losing you, and for giving me permission to live again. The last rays of sunlight touched the water, turning everything golden. Kalen squeezed her hand. Want to get some dinner? There's a place in the East Bay with terrible seafood, but the best hush puppies you'll ever taste. Alara smiled, a real, full smile that surprised her. That sounds perfect. They stood up, brushed the grass off their knees, and walked toward the cemetery gates. Behind them, two graves sat quiet in the evening. They were reminders of love that had been and love that could be. The gates were open this time. They knew how to find their way out, but they didn't rush. They walked slowly, hand in hand, talking about affordable housing, terrible seafood, and building a life from grief, hope, and second chances. Same time next week? Kaylin asked as they reached the parking lot. Coffee and conversation, Alara said. Can we call it what it is now? He asked. What's that? She asked. She looked at him, really looked at him, at his young face marked by grief, at the hope trying to shine through. A beginning, he said. They drove away in separate cars, ready to try something neither thought they'd ever do again. Live. Sometimes moving forward means carrying the past with you, not leaving it behind. Alara and Kaylin learned that loving again doesn't betray the ones we lost, it honors them. Real love teaches us we're strong enough to survive anything, even losing it. And that strength is the greatest gift our lost loves can give us. The courage to live fully, love deeply, and believe in second chances. If this story touched your heart, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about love loss and finding light in dark places. Leave a comment and tell us, do you believe in second chances? Have you ever had to learn to live again after losing everything? Remember, your story isn't over.